Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. I am Tim Kernan. He is Mike Freshwater. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Tim. Good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome. And, folks, we're doing a little Gamecast Radio Sports Talk after dark here tonight. We won't be able to do it Saturday, so there will be no Saturday show. But wanted to squeeze one in here before the weekend, Mike. Got a huge agenda here. I'm not sure if we'll get through all this, but I thought we'd pretty much dive right in. And I kind of wanted to lead the show off, Mike. We've kind of led the show off with this same subject the last couple of weeks, but so much going on with the scandal there up at Michigan. And the minute you think that everything is kind of settled and they'll just do the investigation, it seems to change again.
And it has, just within the last hour or so. I'm sure you saw that Big Ten released a statement that said Michigan will not try the legal course of action to get Coach Harbaugh back on the sidelines. They're dropping that as an idea, and they're going to accept the 3-game suspension as punishment, I guess. So basically, I think they're admitting that they did something wrong. They're not guilty.
Yeah.
And an interesting development just within the last couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours here, as we talk on Thursday night.
Yeah, and something kind of stunning that I thought was that a group, and I'm not real familiar with this group, but the U.S. Integrity. It's a company that it's a gambling watchdog. They partner with the NCAA. Their sole mission is to make sure that games and competition are fair and transparent. They're now involved.
Yeah, that's weird. That was mentioned earlier this week, and that's a side issue, right? I mean, it's unrelated to videotaping games and deciphering and decoding signals and such. Completely different and separate subject. It can be anywhere from guys betting on sports other than college football, or maybe they're betting on their own games and winning or losing. I mean, it could run the gamut. I don't think there's anything nefarious going on there just in terms of point shaving or anything like that. But it feels like this investigation has multiple tentacles out there, and this gambling thing potentially, for whatever reason, could be part of it. But it's just not good. I said last week, I'll say it again. It's a mess, and it might be quite a while before we know everything. But I doubt it's over. We'll see what happens after the Ohio State game and what potentially lies out there ahead for Harbaugh and the Wolverines. But it's been the story of the year in college football.
It sure has, and they have 3 investigations going on now.
Yeah,
Mike.
They're still doing the recruiting one from in the fall where he had to serve a 3-game suspension. So
yeah, he was under suspension for the things he did during the COVID period.
Correct.
Matt Weiss, he has been fired as a coordinator, but they're being investigated for his actions, and now the cheating scandal. So 3 things going on at Michigan. The FBI is on campus. It's crazy. I mean, I don't want to say anything's a verdict at this point.
Absolutely not.
You can't do that, but certainly, going back to the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yep.
There's certainly a lot going on there.
Yep, you would think. It's not over. It's going to be something we're talking about for quite a long time here, and a lot of it depends on what happens the next 3 or 4 weeks with Michigan and their games. They could lose the next 2 games, highly unlikely, but lose the next 2 games and just kind of fade
off,
into the back of into the back of the picture there. But I doubt that's going to happen. I think it's going to stay in the headlines. And while the developments have kind of slowed down just a little bit, they're still out there. It's still happening, and I think it's going to be a while before it's all said and done.
Absolutely crazy. Just a couple more things too before we move on from this subject, but I thought it was interesting. I watched a little bit of a clip of the Dan Patrick show. He had Paul Feinbaum on, and Feinbaum mentioned that he will not recognize Michigan as the national champion if they win. But I I don't. How do you feel about that? It's crazy. I mean,
I have to fully understand what benefit they got from it this year. But I mean, I can draw some conclusions, but and a lot of people, who know what they're talking about, say they gained significant advantage from doing this. And I'd have to quantify that to really understand what value that gave them and when. To say I wouldn't count them as national champions this year, but I think Paul Feinbaum's an anti-Jim Harbaugh guy, anti-Big Ten. He had it out with Desmond Howard earlier in the week on, I think it was maybe Pat McAfee's show, and I'll take it for what it's worth. He is a lawyer, so he does kind of understand due process, but he's an SEC guy, and he's never going to come out in full support of anything that has to do with the Big Ten, but. I'd have to understand all of the details around what they did and what they gained from it to say, they're not really national champions. Here's an interesting thing for you to think about. If they do win the Big Ten championship, the Big Ten commissioner is going to be down on the field, presumably with Jim Harbaugh, handing over that trophy.
Yeah.
How interesting will that be?
Yeah, that
no
would be
acrimony there whatsoever.
Very interesting.
Right.
Well, we'll certainly keep our eyes on that one. But the minute you think you have everything understood, something else changes in that story. It's absolutely crazy.
Yep.
Mike, as we've mentioned on our previous episodes, you and I cover Alter High School here in town, Southwest Ohio. Alter has moved on to the regional final, which will take place tomorrow night. The Alder Knights will take on Wyoming, and had a conversation with Coach Domsites this week, and we kind of went over the fact that Wyoming's kind of they're a public school. Alter is a Catholic school, but kind of similar programs, really. A lot of success in both programs. They both have a lot of confidence, a lot of mystique going along with each team. And they both go into games expecting to win.
They do. They had I didn't even know this until it was broken. They had a 75-game regular season winning streak going on this season, which was broken when Indian Hill beat them during the regular season. So obviously they're dominating that league. They've had quite a bit of success in football. They've always feels like they're always making deep run in the playoffs. Had a really good quarterback a few years ago, Evan Prater, who ended up at UC. They're accomplished, and that's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. But here's one of the most interesting facts about them: their quarterback starts a quarterback and starts a middle linebacker.
And he leads them in tackles.
Can you imagine Henry Reschneider playing quarterback for Alder? I'm just saying.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's a weird stat. Now, my dad did that as probably a 5'9", 165-pounder when he was in high school, but that was in the 50s, right? He started at quarterback and middle linebacker for the Bucyrus Redmen and did well on both sides of the ball. But, again, that was the 50s at a small school. And, to do it now, and they have I've watched some video. They've got a total of 8 or 9 guys that play a lot both ways. And that usually catches up to you sooner or later, unless you're in D6 or D7, where both teams are playing equal that way. But Alder does not have a lot of guys that play both ways. A couple that do it full time, and that might be it. That could be something to look for tomorrow night in terms of Alder's ability to maybe wear down those two-way guys a little bit.
And I think it was you who sent me the information, but the Ohio State Athletic Association has come out with the pairings.
That's right.
They will play the winner of tomorrow night's game will play Region 15, excuse me. We're Region 16.
Correct.
And that will be Steubenville, and I can't remember who they play.
Sheridan.
Thornville Sheridan. That's
Sheridan.
correct. They play the winner of that
Wherever
ball
that
game.
is.
And, ironically enough, the girls' basketball team played Thornville Sheridan in the 2022 state final. Interesting couple storylines there. But the winner of tomorrow night's game, of course, will take on one of those two teams.
We'll wait till it happens. But talking about an Alder-Steubenville matchup, there's some history there.
Yes, there is.
And that would be something I think everybody on both sides of the equation would like to see.
Absolutely. So we'll have an update on that one in a couple weeks, Mike. We're going to take Thanksgiving off, folks, so there won't be a show next week. And certainly everybody can enjoy family. And, I love the holidays, Mike, and we're just kind of cruising into them here.
Well, I mean, and next weekend, what kind of it's a great weekend besides all the football you have on Thanksgiving and everything else. You got Ohio State, Michigan on Saturday that same weekend. So I'm either going to be fully bloated and just full of beer and turkey on Saturday when they line it up at noon. But
that's what it's all about.
Big weekend, man. Yeah, big weekend.
And speaking of college football, the college football rankings, of course, came out for the week this past Tuesday night. A little bit of a change. Georgia hopped up to number 1. It's Georgia, Ohio State. Michigan stays in there, and Florida State stays at number 4. And on the outside looking in are Washington, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. And we talked last week and the week before, Mike, about that. No surprises for me in those top 4 to 6 teams. And I'm a little surprised that Georgia jumped Ohio State, but I thought Georgia has looked pretty impressive the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, especially this past Saturday. I'm not surprised that they leaped Ohio State. You want to just be getting the top 4. It doesn't matter if you're 1 through 4. It really doesn't matter. I thought maybe Washington might leapfrog Florida State, right? But that didn't happen. But Georgia leapfrogging Ohio State, I expected it. Have no problem with it. This thing's going to work itself out on the field. Ohio State and Michigan play in 2 weeks, as we talked about, and Georgia and Alabama are going to play in the SEC championship game. Florida State has a challenge in their, I think it's going to be Louisville in their conference championship game. This is going to work itself out as it always does, and we'll see what happens, but not surprised at any of that change.
No, and there's always a lot of arguing going on, but you're so right that there's so many games between now and then that it'll definitely shake itself out. And I would say, Mike, you come up with the top 4 teams that really deserve.
Rarely a lot of controversy. Next year there'll be no controversy.
No,
because if you could be the 13th team or the one team that's on the outside looking in, but nobody's going to be all worked up over that because you got the top 12. So no controversy next year. It's going to be an interesting, different format and something I'm looking forward to. But this year there might be a little bit, but we'll see it. It'll work itself out on the field. I truly believe that.
Well, and I totally agree, because a couple of years ago you had Cincinnati right there, and people were complaining about that. But they deserve to be there, and you're so right. When it moves to 12, you're not going to have any problem with that. You're going to have those teams that are having a great season that probably deserve a shot, and if they lose, they lose, but they're going to be in that top 12, and they're going to get in.
There might be there will be some value in seeding when that happens. I don't see a lot of it now with the 4, but there will be some value in seeding, and there might be some arguing about that. But in terms of making sure they get all the best teams in that tournament, the top 12 will cover that. I'm certain of that.
I totally agree. A couple other headlines, Mike. Zach Arnett was fired as Mississippi State head coach after just 11 games. Jimbo Fisher is out at Texas A&M. And this one hasn't happened yet, but there's rumors out there that Chip Kelly may be out at UCLA. And I can certainly understand the Jimbo Fisher one at Texas A&M, because they just have not performed up to expectations, and certainly for what they have forked out as far as NIL. But Zach Arnett, boy, I tell you what, 11 games. That is not really giving a guy a whole lot of shot, unless there's something behind the scenes, or if he's just, going in a complete opposite direction that the school wants to go. But seems really quick.
Yeah, 2 things that come to mind when talking about that. Number one, his payout is a lot less.
Yeah, well, that's
than Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah,
Jimbo Fisher, I've seen it quantified multiple ways, but is going to get paid $26,000, I think, a week for the next 8 years. some astronomical amount of money.
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for him.
No, not at all. But didn't so that I know that A&M won their game. Did Mississippi State also? I think also won their game that on Saturday. Has two coaches ever been fired in the middle of the season after wins? I mean, has that ever happened before?
I don't know. Not that I know of.
It's crazy.
It seems so early to start doing this, but I guess if it's what you intend on doing, I don't know. Maybe it is with all the jockeying in position with the portal and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they feel like they need to make the move now. So if they do get a coach in, they can start making moves as far as who they bring in when the season ends.
Yeah, but there's got to be more to it with Arnett because this is his first year. I mean, he's in the middle of his first year. How do you have a chance to do anything?
It's crazy. I can't imagine firing a guy without even giving him one full year. Usually.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, A&M beat Mississippi State 51-10. Both coaches fired after the game. One of them a winner. It's really strange.
It really is.
Zach Arnett took over midstream after Mike Leach passed away.
Yeah,
and they did not give him a chance. Fisher probably had more than enough of a chance.
Oh, I agree.
Texas A&M is loaded with money. There's so much money out there.
Oil money
at Texas A&M, a lot of oil money. At that payout and what they owe, that's dropping the bucket. What we have to start speculating on here is who's going to get that job. That's a big time job with a lot of money at stake. I mean, they're going to throw big money at somebody. Who goes there? I've heard Dabo Swinney as a number one potential prospect. He's probably done at Clemson as far as hitting his peak, a couple years ago. Obviously, a little bit of a struggle this year still going on. But it's going to be a lot of speculation and no shortage of people who are going to want that job if you're going to give them that much money.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep an eye on certainly those coaching positions and the coaching search. But, just, the next guy, especially the next coach at Mississippi State, has got to be thinking, well, gee, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't have much time here, so, it might be difficult to
I don't know how you can have, like, over-the-top expectations in a place like at Mississippi State. I would think that a 6-4, 7-3, or 7-4, whatever kind of a record, and maybe a win over either any of the big 3 or 4, Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, would be a nice season for them. I just don't know what they expect down there, and we'll see who gets that job. But Mississippi State's been an also-ran.
Yeah,
seems like forever, and
had stints, but no real long-term success.
Yep.
So, well, we'll revisit that again in the upcoming weeks. But Mike, you and I, Notre Dame and Ohio State fans, I'll start with the update on Notre Dame. They're coming off a bye week. They take on Wake Forest. There's, in my view as a fan, certainly there's not a whole lot to play for, except for pride and certainly to create maybe a little bit of momentum heading into the off season and hopefully the bowl game. But, when they lost to Louisville after losing to Ohio State, that kind of ruined the playoff dreams. And then, when they dropped another game to Clemson, that pretty much took them out of a New Year's Six bowl. So, my question to you, Mike, is, at this point, one, do you maybe give the backup quarterbacks a chance? I would say no, especially for Marcus Freeman. I think you want to keep Hartman in there because he's your number one quarterback for a reason. I think you want to win these final 3 games, but I'm kind of interested to get your feeling on that.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to roll the best chances you have out there to win these next 3 weeks. You obviously want to go to a pretty decent bowl game when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
There's 41 bowl games. I heard this today. That's just insane. I can't even believe that. But Yeah, I absolutely think you stick with your whatever gives you the best chance of winning now. If for some reason they think their backup quarterback does that for them over the next 3 weeks, then you run them out there. But I think you do what you have to do to try to win. I mean, that's the bottom line. I don't think people at Notre Dame, fans like yourselves and others, alumni, would be willing to sacrifice these next 3 games just to roll out a quarterback or two and try them out. You know what I mean? So. Pride and a good bowl game ultimately, right? That's kind of like their reward if they can.
Yeah, there's some dope fans out there that are calling, for them to go to the second string quarterback. And Hartman has not played well the last couple of weeks. And, but I don't think that you bench him at this point. I agree. You got to go out and try to win these final 2 games and the bowl game and then head into next year. It's a little bit of a disappointment, but I don't think you just totally throw in the towel here.
I agree 100%.
So, Notre Dame is going to be out without a couple of offensive linemen. Offensive tackle Rocco Spindler is out for the season with a knee injury, and center Zeke Correll is in concussion protocol. He may not play. He might, but the story or a verdict on that is yet to come out. They're going to have a makeshift offensive line on Saturday. There's a lot of discussion as well about Jared Parker. He's a first-year offensive coordinator. Nobody's happy with the offensive play. But, I went back and rewatched the Clemson game, and even though the play calling at certain junctures of that ball game were a little questionable, I think the the wide receiver play and the play of Sam Hartman were a lot to blame in that game, and they weren't necessarily the calls. So I think it's a combination of both, Mike.
Yeah, I hate when, people jump to the conclusion, not saying you're doing this, but people jump to the conclusion that it's always the coach's fault. Example number 1, the Bills are fired Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator, after losing Monday night when they had dudes dropping balls.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen throwing interceptions. I mean, last I saw, Ken Dorsey's not playing anymore. He's calling plays and designing the offense. And, if they don't do some of those things and win that game, which they easily could have done, especially there at the end, he wouldn't have been fired. He'd still be there. It's crazy, but
it is.
But somebody has to be the scapegoat. And in this case, that's exactly what Ken Dorsey was the scapegoat. I doubt you're going to see much of a change in Josh Allen or that Buffalo Bill offense. But the same goes for a team like Notre Dame. They are what they are right now, and you're not going to make dramatic changes offensively. I think it's a question of guys being more prepared and executing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think in the next couple of weeks, as far as from a fan perspective or somebody who follows Notre Dame, you really want to see improvement in the wide receiver play, maybe a little bit of play calling, but execution. You absolutely nailed it. Go with the play that's called and execute. And, make it happen. So We'll see what happens there. But Notre Dame, of course, as mentioned, will take on Wake Forest this Saturday. Then they will close out the regular season at Stanford. That is the Saturday right after Thanksgiving, so next week. And we'll see what happens, Mike. But it is never a dull moment with Notre Dame. But let's move on to Ohio State. Mike, Ohio State smoked Michigan State last week. If OSU beats Minnesota, and do you believe that they've done enough no matter what happens in that Michigan game? Of course, they will have to go on and play in the Big Ten title game, but even if they lose to Michigan, I still kind of feel like Ohio State's probably going to be in the
I think it depends on what else happens.
Yeah.
Like if Alabama beats Georgia and they're both one-loss teams out of the SEC, they're going to take 2 spots. And then I think Ohio State or the Big Ten runner-up is screwed in that case. If Georgia beats
That's true. That's a good
Alabama's
point.
Eliminated, and that didn't happen last year, and it can happen again this year. We talked a lot last Saturday, even when Jeff Gilbert got on, about Ohio State and how they've struggled early, and we complained about it last week, and then what happened Saturday went out. Saturday got off to a flying start and a huge lead, kind of coasted in the second half.
Yeah.
against us, an inferior opponent for sure. And that's going to happen again this week as far as their competition. Minnesota has not had a great season, but they did kind of solve that, at least for now, that getting off to a faster start kind of problem. And hopefully that's something that they can show that they're capable of doing again this tomorrow, or this coming Saturday. I lost I'm losing
track of time.
Right. But I think it'll be interesting. It's certainly possible that both Ohio State and Michigan can end up in the playoffs again like last year. But again, a lot of that depends on what everybody else.
I think you're right, though. I think Alabama has to be knocked out for that to happen.
Yeah, I do too, and maybe Washington. We'll see.
Well, that's true. Yes, there goes the conversation. Absolutely. Well, Mike, any concerns still about Ohio State that you have?
I mean, I think they've proven that the offense. I mean, if people have complained, me included, a little bit about Kyle McCord, and I saw somebody put a post up this week where they were comparing first-year stats after this many games for several of the last, in their first year, several of the last 4 or 5 Ohio State quarterbacks, including, C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields and Barrett and those guys, and McCord stacks up real well statistically with them. In fact, if you compared McCord's stats to J.J. McCarthy's stats, who there for a while was a Heisman Trophy prospect, has kind of fallen off a little bit. McCord's got better stats than J.J. McCarthy as a quarterback. So I think he has the only thing that worries me a little bit about him is his penchant for turning it over in the pocket. It seems like he does that every game. Whether the other team recovers or not is always in question. But he's still the ball security for him in the pocket and not getting too rattled when things are getting heated in there is my concern. But you can't. Defense is playing great. Not any real serious injuries, knock on wood, on either side of the ball. C.J. Hicks got a lot of playing time on Saturday. He might see the field more.
He's an athlete.
It's hard for me to say there's any real concern. I think Michigan's beatable. I watched them on Saturday against Penn State. It was a close game. They did not throw one pass in the second half, which tells me they are so wrapped up in their running game and their power running game, which is Jim Harbaugh's modus operandi.
Yeah.
And he loves to just get a bunch of big dudes out there and run behind them. If they stay that one-dimensional, like Ohio State's chances of defending them, but they can run it. And it's going to be, it might be that same old thing we've been talking about the last 2 years. Ohio State's like quick strike, big play offense against Michigan, trying to grind it out, keep the ball, and score at the end of long drives, which is going to win, right?
Well, when you don't have the other team's plays, too, it's a little bit more difficult.
You keep trying to be realistic on this one. That's a good point. But I'm starting to get a little excited and nervous at the same time about next Saturday. I don't want to look past Minnesota. But over the past 3 or 4 weeks, as we've talked about it, my confidence or level of comfortability in terms of how I think Ohio State might fare against Michigan has grown and gotten better and better. So,
that's going to be an exciting game.
I know it's hard not to look forward to that.
Yep, and as you mentioned, Ohio State will be at home versus Minnesota this Saturday. I think the time on that game is still to be announced, unless you've heard. The last time I looked, it wasn't announced yet. And then, of course, they've
got 4 o'clock
Michigan.
now. It looks
4
like.
o'clock,
Yeah,
okay.
and Ohio State's
that's an odd
minus
time.
27.5. In Columbus at 4 o'clock on. It is an odd time.
That is an odd time.
Got to be done for TV.
Okay,
I don't know what network it's on, but it got to be something they're doing for TV.
4 o'clock at home, and then, of course, at Michigan on the 25th. That's Saturday. At noon on Fox. Thanksgiving weekend, so certainly looking forward to that one. Mike, jumping into pro football, the Bengals playing tonight. I got my Bengals sweatshirt on tonight, taking on the Ravens. I don't feel very good about this game tonight. I don't know if you have an update on that ball game.
Baltimore 7, Cincinnati nothing right now.
Surprise.
I'm a Bengals fan tonight too. I want Baltimore to lose because if that happens, the Browns-Steelers game on Sunday, the winners of that is in first place, believe it or not. And now looks like it's 7-3. The Bengals have kicked a field goal.
That's good.
So I'm a Bengals fan tonight, as I was last weekend. They let me down, got me eliminated out of my survivor pool. But I'm rooting for the Bengals tonight. And like I said, if they can knock off Baltimore, just get this whole thing jammed up even more, and the Browns can knock off the Steelers, who are doing it with smoke and mirrors on Sunday. Browns are in first place. Who would have thought that?
It's a crazy, but probably I would say the best division in the NFL right now. But we've talked about it a couple of weeks now. The NFL is just so unpredictable. The Bengals started off slow, then they picked it up, went out to San Francisco, and looked like the best team in the NFL, taking care of San Fran, and then they come home, beat Buffalo, but then they lay an egg pretty much last week. Almost came back and won it, but honestly, even a Bengals fan sitting here, they really didn't deserve last week. They almost won it.
Yeah, I was rooting for them, like I said, and it never felt like they were going to pull it out. I mean, it's never felt like it was going to happen. It seemed like Texas was Houston was destined to win that game, and C.J. Stroud put on another show. But
very impressive.
Bengals, it's going to be hard to bet on the Bengals making the playoffs if they lose tonight. That might be not mathematically eliminate them, of course.
Going to be very difficult.
Virtually eliminate them, especially when you look at their schedule.
Oh yeah,
it's first or second toughest schedule over the course of the last several games in the league.
Yeah, I have it right here. They're next week. Steelers at home, Jaguars away.
Ooh.
Colts at home, Vikings at home, Steelers away, Chiefs away, and then they have the Browns at home. And they just, I don't know, especially under Burrow, who's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but he has not had a good time against the Browns. But Bengals losing last weekend to the Texans really hurt.
Yeah, that was a game that they were favored in by 6.5, which is why I took them. I thought maybe the Texans had kind of run out of. I just didn't feel like the Texans were that team, right? That they could do what they did back-to-back weekends, but they sure did, man. They came in here into Cincinnati, and they're not bad. They really aren't, and they knocked off the Bengals. And now I truly think that the Bengals are absolutely in a must-win situation tonight. If they lose, and that'll be another division loss, another conference loss. They're really behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, it's losing last week was a killer, and it really turned tonight into almost a must-win situation. And boy, that's a difficult must-win situation.
Yeah, with that schedule they've got left, and it's going to be tough for them if they lose tonight to bounce all the way back.
Mike, the Browns 6-3 now.
Jinxed.
Really
jinxed,
playing great, but they've lost
jinxed.
Deshaun Watson now.
So jinxed.
Impressive win. I mean, unbelievable comeback win against those same Ravens that we were talking about.
That game was crazy. But Deshaun Watson breaks a bone in his shoulder. It's just some kind of a bizarre injury in that game. And just out of nowhere. I mean, nobody saw this coming. The Browns announced yesterday that he was going to undergo season-ending surgery, and I know it's just very depressing. And it just feels like since they've been back, it's one thing after another for Browns and Browns fans, and this is just another stab in the back. I mean, he looked really good in the second half. He was 14 for 14. Had that run, that quarterback draw that led to a touchdown, or that he scored a touchdown on. It was a beautiful sight to behold them knocking off Baltimore.
Incredible comeback.
There in Baltimore. Yeah, it was great. And then you have this happen. So can they win without a real good coming? Can they get to the playoffs? I guess is really kind of their goal right now with a rookie quarterback. They've announced they're going to start DTR and not PJ Walker this coming weekend. I don't know, man. The jury's out. I hope. I'm hoping for a little bit of a miracle. Maybe they win on Sunday, but not because of the quarterback. And they find a veteran, like a Ryan Tannehill or somebody who gets released or that's out there. There's been rumors that Jacoby Brissett wants out of Washington. Can they pick him up, which they could slide him right in because he was there last year?
Yeah.
I mean, I like their chances if they can get somebody like that. But with a rookie quarterback in there, man, I just even with as good as that defense is, you get a kid in there that's turning the ball over, like he did his one and only start. He got no chance. And so, season's not over because Watson's gone now, but it's going to be a huge uphill challenge for Stefanski and the offense.
Well, and I was just going to say, I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff at Cleveland. I mean,
they've lost 2 tackles. They lost their leading runner, who was maybe the best in the league. They've lost 2 tackles, 2 offensive linemen. One is, I think, is coming back this weekend. And now the quarterback, and somehow they're 6-3.
Well, and you mentioned that Steelers are doing it with smoke and mirrors. I don't feel that way about the Browns.
No.
I mean, you just mentioned it. They've lost some key players, but I really give that coaching staff a lot of credit for what they've done.
If you lined up the Steelers' stats and looked at how they ranked offensively and defensively against all the other teams in the league, if you didn't have a name at the top of that and you were just looking at that stat list, you would bet your life that team is not 6-3.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They're like the 30th or 31st overall ranked defense in the league. Their offense is terrible. They can't score. The quarterback's no good. Yet they're winning. It's insane how they're doing it.
Is.
I'm waiting for somebody. I mean, I think Sunday, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out on the short end of the score, but somehow they declare them a winner. I mean, I didn't say it's like, how are they doing it, right? It's just amazing.
It really is.
And Sunday, if for no other reason, just that will be interesting to see what rabbit they can pull out of their hat on Sunday against the Browns.
Yeah, that's another intriguing game that we'll certainly keep our eye on. But the remaining schedule for the Browns next week, after this Sunday, of course, they'll be at the Broncos. Then they'll be at the LA Rams, home versus the Jaguars, home versus the Bears. Then they're going to take on the Texans down in Houston. They'll be home versus the Jets, and they'll be at Cincinnati to take on the Bengals.
There's some wins in there, right? I mean,
yeah.
And I think you get 10 wins. This happened to the Browns several years ago. They got 10 wins and didn't get in the playoffs. But I think this year, in that division and with that schedule there, I think that 10 wins gets them in. Can they do that? I think it's possible. But it is all going to boil down to quarterback play for them now, and what they do there. It's the bottom line.
Yeah, there is a team in that AFC North that's going to get shut out, but. Again, I think it's the best best division in the NFL right now. But, yeah, one of those 3 teams is going to get shut out.
Yeah, you would think. Everybody's been talking about – I've heard somebody predict earlier in the season that all 4 teams get in the playoffs. I don't even know how that's possible with them all playing each other. But I'm starting to get a little bit – and we'll see what happens Sunday. If the Steelers lose Sunday – that might put them on the outside looking in. Of course, the Bengals lose tonight. They're going to be way on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And this is just a really brutal division of 4 teams that just beat each other up when they play each other. Yep. And very competitive. Yeah, best division of football, most competitive division in the NFL. And whoever makes it to the playoffs out of that mess will deserve it.
Yeah. And, Mike, we didn't get a chance to do this last week just because of time and guests, but I kind of wanted to go back to our new little segment, Yes, No, Maybe. So I'm going to ask you some questions here. Got a couple good ones picked out, I think. But the first one, again, this is Yes, No, Maybe. Mike is going to answer my statements. These aren't questions. These are my statements, but I'll give you my thoughts too as well. But the first one is Aaron Rodgers will be the starting QB for the New York Jets in the 2024 football season.
Well, since it's Gamecast Radio Sports After Dark, we should have made this a drinking game somehow or another.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Repeat that again. That's the Aaron Rodgers question.
Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets in the 2024 football season.
Yes. There's no doubt in my mind. There's some debate about him coming back yet this year, still, which blows my mind. But there's talk out there, and he's floating it out there that he'll come back this year even. If you had said 2023, I probably would have said no. I thought that's what you were going to ask, was 2023. But 2024, for sure, he's back and he'll start for them as long as he's not injured.
I agree. I think he will be as well. He's the type of player and the type of individual that has enough ego that he doesn't want to go out.
And with modern medicine the way it is, I mean, these guys are coming back after rupturing their Achilles. They're coming back and being just as good, if not better, than ever. I mean, Kevin Durant did it, and he's playing in the NBA, for gosh sakes. So I think Rodgers is back, and the Jets are going to make another run at it next season with him at the helm.
They're another team that I think is kind of on the brink. I just feel like notoriously they've been so bad, but I think with a healthy quarterback and a good quarterback like Rodgers is, I think that Jets team could be pretty.
They would be in the playoff for sure. The playoff conversation solidly, if not the favorite to win that division. I think they have the defense to do it. It's just that they've got an untested, unproven, inexperienced quarterback, and that's killing them. And that's what the NFL is all about, is quarterback play.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, no matter what else you have, it's almost a losing proposition.
Next question, Mike. Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in professional football.
No. I mean, if we were to start if you'd have put them all out there right now and say, okay, you're going to start a franchise, pick any quarterback you want. I'm not picking, he's good, but I'm going to pick Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's by far, in my mind, he's clearly the best quarterback in the NFL still today. And if I was starting my own team and I had a clean slate, that's who I would draft as my quarterback number one.
I agree with you. The only thing I would change in that sentence is Joe Burrow is one of the best
quarterbacks. And I would say yes, for sure,
in professional football.
He's uncannily accurate.
But I think that Mahomes has a slight edge on him, and I give Mahomes the edge just because of his mobility and the way that he can create. I think Burrow is also pretty mobile and can create, when nothing's there, but. I agree with you. I have to give the edge a little bit to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, to quote Travis Kelce, Burrow head my ass. I love that. That was
jabroni.
That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I was watching it live. I just died laughing. That was so funny.
He is quite the nutcase, isn't he?
I loved it.
All right, Mike, number 3. The targeting rule in college football is a joke and needs to be changed.
It does need to be changed. I don't think it's evenly officiated and applied. I mean, and I've watched enough games to see where I thought it was clearly targeting based on the definition of the rule, yet they didn't call it, or they reviewed it and said it wasn't targeting.
Agreed.
So it's not evenly officiated, not evenly applied. I don't know if it's a joke. I mean, I like the spirit of the rule. But I just don't know if it's, and even after they review it, it looks like sometimes they get it wrong. Case in point, and I know everybody's going to think I'm a whiner, but that Ohio State Georgia game last year, Marvin Harrison clearly got targeted. I mean, it was clearly targeting. Wasn't called on the field. They didn't review it. It never happened, and it was clearly maybe the best example of targeting I've ever seen. So, I don't know the definition of it then, I guess, if they're not going to call it in a situation like that.
Yeah, no, again, totally agree. I love the fact that they're trying to protect players and keep the head out of the game as much as possible. Correct. I totally agree with that. But I think there are times when they call it just because it's what the rule states. You can't hit with your helmet, but there are times when a player has made his move to go in and make the tackle, and the offensive player lowers his head, and that's when they collide.
Yeah, he changes his position.
Yes, you've got to have a little leeway there.
That does happen. I have seen examples of where they called targeting on the field, and they reviewed it and reversed it, and that's good that they do that. But in your scenario, your case, that that's not in their in the conversation. I mean,
I think there has to be some common sense.
Yeah, I agree, and they need to look at the position of the offensive player and where he's at as the defender closes in and starts to initiate the whole tackling process. But they don't do that. They don't consider the position of the offensive player before he launches and then after he launches. It's something that needs to be written into the rule, I think, if it isn't already. I haven't seen it. I looked it up and I didn't see it in there.
Yeah. Couple more, Mike. Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State will be a top 3 pick in the 2024 NFL draft.
I mean, I think this is he's got to have a couple good games, this week and next week. And if he is quote unquote spectacular in either one of them, he will be. He'll go to the presentation. But if I'm sitting here, you're asking me today, will he be top 3? I'm going to say no. But I think he can get there. It's all on him. I mean, because the guys that are ahead of him are in that same conversation. If you look at the odds, they're all quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they're ahead of him now. So he's got to be almost has to have some ridiculous Heisman moment in the Michigan game, a la Desmond Howard against Ohio State, which I hate to even bring up. But I think it's possible. But sitting here today, I say no.
Okay. I think he will be, just because I think that there are some teams out there. A lot of times it depends on what teams that are at the top need, and I think that there are teams that are going to be at the top of the draft.
Okay, I totally confused the question. I thought you were asking about Heisman Trophy.
No, I said he will be a top 3 pick.
Okay, I heard that totally wrong. Can we edit this whole thing here? I still say no. I don't think he'll be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. I think he'll be top 6 or 7 or 8. I don't think top 3. No, I do not. So I'll stick with my answer.
I kind of think he will be, just because I think that there are some teams at the top that are going to need a player like him. But, that's splitting hairs, certainly. But yeah. I think he definitely will be a top 10
You can
pick.
ask me, will he be a top 3 Heisman Trophy winner or a prospect? You can ask me that now.
I was going to ask you that one, but I decided to hold off on that one.
Okay, darn it.
All right, final one, Mike, on yes, no, maybe. Georgia will win the national championship in football for the 3rd year in a row.
Wouldn't that be something? Man, they're looking better. They're looking good. They've only got really one tough game before they get into the playoffs. That's obviously the Alabama. I say yes. I say yes. I if I were to bet today, I would bet on Georgia.
I am going to say maybe, and I know that's the weasel way out of this one.
Yeah.
But, if it was the beginning of the season, I would say no, they're not going to. But like you just said, the last couple of weeks, they have just looked a lot better and looking more and more like the number 1 team in the nation.
And it's hard not to like Kirby Smart. It's hard not to like Brock Bowers. I mean, they don't come off, at least publicly, nationally, to me, as arrogant or offstandish, that kind of stuff. I mean, Kirby Smart seems like a really nice guy. I mean, I think back to that game last year when Ohio State should have beaten them, a 14-point lead in the 4th quarter and couldn't close the deal. But yeah, I think sitting here today, they obviously are a favorite, and they've got motivation, to be the first time anybody's ever won it 3 times in a row like that.
Crazy that they even have the chance.
It's crazy, and again, I don't mind it so much. I became a kind of anti-Alabama and anti-Nick Saban a little bit, but I like Kirby Smart, and I don't see any reason to root against them other than if Ohio State plays them. But man, that would be a major accomplishment. Kirby Smart could probably go to Texas A&M and get $100 million.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on something there. I don't want to go over it for too long, but it's like I don't dislike Nick Saban in Alabama, I was just sick of him. I wanted somebody else.
That's human
But
nature.
As far as
like
the coach goes,
kind of like with Bill Belichick in New England.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, I just went, heck,
yeah, you're just
if you don't like it, you got to beat them. I mean,
That's
I
right.
I quit hating them. I mean, if we're not beating them, you can't. And yeah, I don't mind Nick Saban all that much, and he's got some Ohio roots. Went to Kent State.
gotta respect him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about, ultimately.
Yeah. So, Mike, just a couple more things before we wrap up the show tonight. But helmet stickers for college football last weekend. I'll go first. I'm going to go with Michael Penix Jr. of Washington.
He's got a couple of our
versus Utah. Very impressive. I don't know if you've had a chance to actually watch him this year, Mike, but
sure.
man, does he
last
throw.
2 weeks.
He throws a nice ball.
Yeah, last 2 weeks. He looks like a pro prospect for sure.
It started off at Indiana and moved to Washington. And
So
it's
much better in Washington than he ever did in Indiana, but he's obviously got weapons around him. It's a little bit different of a team, but
well,
he
he's
looks like
a leader.
stud.
Yeah, a leader. He really leads that team, but he led them, of course, against Utah. They won 35-28. He was 24 of 42 for 332 yards, a 65% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and an 89.6 QBR. He's got a huge test this week against Oregon State, but my helmet sticker goes to Michael Penix Jr. of Washington.
I like that pick. I think I had him once myself earlier in the season. I'm going to go a little tongue-in-cheek, but maybe not so much. I'm going to give it to a guy by the name of Drew Stevens. Who is that, do you ask? That is Iowa's kicker. Iowa beat Rutgers last week 22-0. We all know about Iowa's struggles to score the ball and how often they've hit the under. Last week with the lowest under number ever in the history of gambling on NCAA football. I think it was 28.5. And they were under. They won 22-0. But Drew Stevens, their kicker, was 3 for 4 on field goals, kicked a 43-yarder as his longest, was 1 for 1 on extra points, scored 10 of Iowa's 22 points, and Iowa continues to kind of defy the odds and, not score the ball but win.
Winning without an offense.
Yeah, and their kicker, Drew Stevens, had a great day, and Iowa shut out Rutgers, and if you want to make some money, I'd say probably look at the number on their game this week and bet the under, and keep betting the under until they beat it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
So, Mike, we'll jump into the picks now. Just to give an update on our picks, you went 2-2, as did I in college last week. So in college, you are 20-16 now, and I am 17-19. So you're whipping up on me in the college ranks. And in the pro, you were 1-3, and I was 3-1.
Yeah, I don't understand.
We're having opposite success.
What is that all about?
I am 25-14 in the professional ranks, and you are 17-22.
Ooh, getting my butt kicked there. I'm losing money.
So interesting. And if I would actually bet on these, it would be ugly.
Yeah, you would have to go to the bank and get a loan, pay off your bookie.
So notable games for the pro ranks, Mike. We'll start with the Bengals at the Ravens. That's tonight, and I don't know if you got an update on that one. It was 7-3 earlier, the Ravens, but I was going to go with the Ravens on that one. I don't know what the line is on that game.
It's still 7-3. 7-3. It's the end of the first quarter. The Ravens were, since they're at home, were like 4.5, maybe 5.5 or something. Let's go with 4.5. I like the Ravens in that game.
Okay.
At home. Bengals just, I don't know, can't put my finger on it. They got
to figure out.
Yeah, they've got a couple injuries. T. Higgins is still out, Sam Hubbard.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. I mean, everybody's got injuries. So, but I think the Ravens are going to cover that and win tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the Ravens as well. Yeah, unfortunately is a great way to put it. Steelers at the Browns. And, Mike, if you could pull up the lines on those, that'd be great. Steelers at the Browns. We'll do the Eagles at the Chiefs and the Buccaneers at the 49ers. But Steelers, Browns, I'm going to go with the Browns on that one. Is that a pick, or are the Browns?
No, the Browns are -1.5 since they're at home.
I'm going to go with the Browns.
That's basically a pick-in when you're talking about 1.5. I just don't. I mean, I feel like the Steelers are going to run out of smoke and mirrors, but the Browns are starting a rookie quarterback. Man, I don't know. I'm going to go with the Browns. Again, it's basically a pick-in minus 1.5, but I'm also going to go with the Browns. I'm very hesitantly.
The Eagles at the Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one. I think the Chiefs are favored by a few. And if you have that line.
I do. That is on Monday night. The Chiefs are at home and minus 2.5.
I will go with the Chiefs on that one.
We got to pick different here. We can't stay on the same thing. I think normally I would take the Chiefs because they're home, but the Eagles have found a way this year.
They have.
Whether they'll cover or not, 2.5 is not a big number. I'll take the Eagles in 2.5 in that game.
And final one is the Buccaneers at the 49ers, and I kind of picked that one just to see if the 49ers have kind of figured things out. The Buccaneers, they're kind of one of those teams where you don't know what you got there either.
But
They've played well.
It's 12 points.
12-point favorite.
I've learned this a long time ago. The 49ers are the betting public loves the 49ers, especially back in the day when a lot of the action was in and out of Vegas. So for that reason, I'm going to take Tampa Bay, my boy Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay, and plus 12 in that game.
Okay, we got those. And on to the college pick. I got picks. I have a handful of games picked out. I thought we'd go with the number 1 Georgia at number 21 Tennessee. 3:30 game on CBS this Saturday. Georgia's minus 10.
Georgia's minus 10. You said Tennessee?
At Tennessee.
Georgia's on a roll. I'm taking them minus 10. Yeah.
Oh, boy. I think I'm going to go with Georgia, too. I just think Tennessee is just not as good as we thought they were.
No.
So I'll go on Georgia as well. Just because, we're fans and we're going to follow these games all the way to the end. But Wake Forest at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is favored by 25.
Ooh.
3:30 on NBC.
Can Notre Dame score more than 25 points?
Oh, that hurts.
Which means
it hurts to laugh.
Which also means they're shutting out Wake Forest. 25. I know Wake Forest isn't very good. Didn't Bowling Green beat them earlier in the season or something like that?
I don't remember.
Man, that's a big number against Notre Dame. Where's that game?
It's at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
3:30 NBC.
I want to take you at 25 points. That's that's a big number.
You're going to go with Wake. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to whip up on them. And I don't know that it will be pretty, but I just think they're going to pull away and maybe smoke Wake Forest in that one. Could be wrong, but we'll see. Minnesota at Ohio State. Ohio State's favored by 28, Mike.
Yeah, I think it's actually down 0.5 point for whatever that's worth. It's 27.5 today, but we'll go with 28. And I think a lot of that's based on, what happened this past Saturday. The game is in, let's see here. It is in Columbus at 4:00. Oh boy. I'll take the Buckeyes minus those points. That's a lot. I don't know, but they seem to get it untracked a little bit on offense last week. Having Travion Henderson there is a big deal. They'll probably hold Minnesota to 10 or less. So I'll take a stab and do the Buckeyes and the points, but I'm not real comfortable with that. I wouldn't bet my own money on that.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of points, but I don't think Minnesota is very good.
Yeah, they're not.
So I think Ohio State. I think I'll go with them as well. We got number 5 Washington at number 10 Oregon State. Pretty interesting game there. Washington's only favored by -1. That's a 7:30 game on ABC.
I'll pick them, really.
Pretty much.
The Beavers. Yeah, I really liked Washington. I've watched them the last 2 weeks, and their quarterback, you talked about him earlier. I'm going with Washington in that game. I'd be shocked if they don't win it. Now, kind of rooting against them a little bit because that takes them out of the playoff picture. But I like Washington. I think they're really good, and I think they'll win.
I do too. I really like them, but just for fun, I'm going to go with Oregon State. I'm going to go with the big upset, and that would shake up the polls a little bit, Mike, if that happened.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens in that one. And the final one for the college ranks, we'll go with the USC at number 6 Oregon. Oregon's -14.5. That's a 10:30 game on Fox.
Yeah, isn't USC such an enigma, right? The whole
really-
situation,
they really
the
are.
quarterback, the coach. I mean, it's just like, what the heck's going on with them? But I'm going to go with them. I'm going to go with the Trojans. I don't know why. Maybe they can get it back together. But that's what is it? How many was it again?
Minus 14 and a
Yeah,
half.
man, that's a lot when you have a quarterback like they've got. I'll take the Trojans in the points.
I think I'm going to go with Oregon. I think USC is a mess. Right
Oregon's
now.
good.
And Oregon is really
They're really good.
Bo Nix has gotten a couple of helmet stickers from us.
Maybe, I guess it's arguable, but maybe the best league in college football this year is going away. It's going away. I saw or heard something today that who were the two that are looking? Is it Oregon State and Stanford that are looking for a conference, and they were reaching out?
No,
to
Stanford. Stanford's going to the ACC with.
Really? Okay.
Yes, they are. I'm trying to remember who they're going
I think
with.
it was Oregon State and Washington State. We're still looking.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
And I think I heard something today where they've reached out to the Big Sky. Is it the Big Sky or the Big
Stanford
West or
and
whatever
Cal
the heck it is?
are going to the ACC, I think. So
that league's going away, man. Who knew? Who thought? I mean, that's like, how can that happen? But it did, and it's like kind of sad in a way. That conference they called it the Conference of Champions because it seems like year in, year out, they win the National All-Sports Trophy, if you want to call it that, in the NCAA, but no more, man. It's just bizarre.
it really
Strange
is.
times we live in, my man.
Mike, there is one more thing that I kind of forgot to bring up that I'd like to get your reaction a little bit on, but it was, I don't know if you saw the interview with the acting head coach for Michigan,
did.
Sharon Moore.
I did.
I certainly I have no problem with somebody being overcome by emotion. I have no problem with that at all. But it seemed a little weird at that point, and he made it seem like they were the victim, like they're the victim in all this.
Well, I've never heard anybody in a conversation, let alone on national TV, F-bomb 2 or 3 times and then give all glory to God. I'm like, okay, what are we talking about here? You can't give all glory to God if you're going to talk like that on national TV. I'm sorry, that was bizarre, and I'm glad it happened because it now makes what Ryan Day did seem awful small and trivial. But that was a bizarre interview,
It
and
really was.
I'm not sure that guy helped himself in terms of giving him a chance to find a head coaching job anywhere if you're going to be like that after a big win.
Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. We really appreciate you tuning in to Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. Mike, you and I will, of course, be together tomorrow night for the Ultra Playoff game. But, have a great Thanksgiving. We will skip next week, but then we'll join up with the folks again in a couple weeks, and we'll have a lot to talk about.
We will have a lot to talk about. You better be taking notes over the next 2 weeks, Tim, because a lot is going to happen.
Absolutely. Folks, do us a favor on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. We'd like to offer more, but we need your help. So have a great night, everybody, and we will see you next time on Gamecast Radio Sports Talk.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.